Hello YouTube. Well, today I'm at the last home of Daniel Boone. Now, what do I know before I came here about Daniel Boone? That he led an expedition through the Cumberland Gap into Kentucky, and which the colonists were forbidden to go across the Appalachian Mountains, but he did, and that opened, basically it was pulling the cork, and thousands of people poured through into the land on the other side of the mountains. That was the extent of my knowledge of Daniel Boone. I'm in Missouri. How did he come to be here? Well, in the late 1700s, by then, Daniel was a national hero, and this side of the Mississippi was still owned by Spain. Remember, the Louisiana Purchase had not come along yet, so the French and the Spanish were contesting who owned this, and the King of Spain wanted more people to come in here to basically established that this was Spanish land. So he gave Daniel a large land grant. The idea being a national hero, more people would follow him. Well, they did. He came out here to look it over, looked around, said, this is a wonderful place. You could go a mile that way, hunt buffalo, a mile that way, hunt deer. And so he decided to move out here and came out with, I believe, 40 people. And his original land grant is actually the Missouri River has changed course enough. It's eaten up that land, but he had to sell that off to settle some debts back in Kentucky. His son, Nathan, and him and his wife, when they were newly married, moved here and built the house that we're about to go see up here. And Daniel and his wife Rebecca basically from that point on stayed with their children. They did have quite a number of children. But in the early 1800s, Rebecca died in February, which is during sugaring season, and Daniel moved into a bedroom, which we will see in the house, and that was where he stayed, although he did get out and still get out and around. But so let's go take a look in the house, shall we? So this house is actually 4 levels. You've got the basement, primarily used for cooking and eating. You got the living area on be the first level on this side. It is built into a hillside. The next level up would be bedrooms, and then the 4th level up under the eaves would be where the boys would be, or a lot of the boys. And when Daniel got sick, and they thought he was dying, his son said, make a pine box. I'm going to go get Grandpa. And when Daniel recovered, came back, saw the pine box, and went, no, that won't do. It need to be made out of black walnut, which there are a lot of them all over here. I'm standing under a few. So we had a coffin made out of black walnut, and they stored it up there on that 4th level. Now Daniel, being a little bit of a joker, he would go up and polish it. And every once in a while he'd lay down in it, because you want to make sure your coffin fits. And he'd pull when you hear the boys coming up, he'd pull the top on it shut and wait till he made sure there was a lot of boys in there, and then the right moment, jump up out of the casket and scare the boys. So, yeah, I like him. Okay, so this patio is the square footage of an average cabin back in the late early 1800s. And then the Boone family got here and built this. This is a limestone that was quarried locally, and they had 14 children, so I suppose they definitely needed a bigger house. Nobody knows really when they started. They know it took 7 years to build it, and the taxes jumped in 1817, so we assume that it was finished in 1816. And we're going to find out what those ports are. So what those openings are, if we go up, you see another level and another one. That would have been, as you can imagine, as you start to build, it gets a little higher to raise these big blocks up here. Scaffolding. Now you can build up another 6 feet and keep on going. So this is Daniel's bedroom.
So they would go from one to the next, and then go to the grandma and grandpa. That was the greatest title he said he ever had, not Colonel Compton.
Okay, this is the only picture made from life in his time of Daniel Boone. And they've got it hanging here in the drawing room, which was Daniel's favorite room. This is originally the boys' room. It became Nathan and Olive's room. And that's photographs of Nathan and Olive. Down here in the basement, they did cook on this. They used this fireplace for heat, but this is where they ate. And there's a pass-through to the kitchen. It would have been split off with a big door. And they used a lot of pewter, which is basically lead. And you can melt it down and make bullets. At the end of a battle, you can pick up the bullets, hammer it out, and make plates again. But it's also, because it's lead, it is not something you want to eat off of. This was the original fireplace for the kitchen. It's right here. And here's a view from the other side. And you can see the 4 levels. Yeah, one of the other things here is that they have brought in on the land that was the farm buildings from the 1800s and created a little bit of a village. So we're going to take a look at a few of those buildings. So if you want a grist mill and you don't have any available water power, what do? Well, you can harness up some horses, go around, turn this big gear to turn the millstones that are way up there. So there's a way to bring the grain up from that side of the building and grind it up there, and then the flour, bag it up, send it out the other side. So this cabin was built in the 1840s. That's a nice elk skull up there.
Steel, if you have one, or bachelors came around 1820, 1825 or so. Now this over here, we don't use this one over here though, but this is a very, very small rifle. Okay, musket. I do shoot over demonstrations.
Some of the things you could trade for.
And there are 9 steps to bullets.
Lace comb, flint, steel, tobacco.
2 hands. Look, 2 hands. It's a small one. Okay. That's a small one. Yeah.
So this is also a dog run, but it's enclosed, so it doesn't go all the way through that way.
We put the basement down.
So in this dog run, reenactors come down and they actually spend time living in here. beautiful church with that pipe organ up there. It still works. And looks like another clock up there. But you don't see wide floorboards like this anymore. And of course, we'll get a closer look at that clock mechanism that runs the clock above and the clock outside. You know, it's not often you see a log building with a balcony. I would have loved to have a shop this big.
All right, is to get it going here. Yeah. Different designs, go two like that, spins around. Pretty cool, huh? So you have summer camp.
So I love some of these old tools.
The camp here then.
It's one kind of drill. There's a almost like a spoon drill.
And anyway, all kind of planes.
Yeah, there's a spoon drill right there. See, like spoon at the end.
Built 1830s.
Fro up there.
Near Wentzville area.
Spoke shape. It's curved. Or a draw knife is flat. Broad X, squaring up timbers. As one of the more prominent members of the community and being known as a fair man, Daniel was also a judge. And he had two trees that he liked to hold court under. Being an outdoorsman, why be inside? This is a cement casting of the elm tree that stood here. That was the judgment tree on his son Nathan's land. Why a cement casting? Why not the tree? Well, Dutch elm disease killed off pretty much all the elms back in the 1960s, and before this one actually was taken down, they did a casting, and they also did a bore to see how old it was, and it was definitely decided that it was a well-established tree at the time of Daniel being here. Well, this little pool is actually fed by a spring up on the mountainside. There was a small reservoir up there, and this gave them access to fresh water. And it's pretty dry right now, but back in the day, the one thing you definitely needed was access to good water. Down through those trees is a river, and that right now it's more of a brook. Back in the day, it flowed like a river. So Daniel lived to be 3 weeks shy of his 86th birthday. He died in 1820, and he's buried southwest of here a little ways. I'm not going to go visit his grave, but I think with that I am going to leave the Boone farm and get on the road, see what else I can find. See you later, YouTube.